Welcome back. We're joined by Justin Schaefer, who is the founder of Hot Potato.
Thank you for having me.
If you don't know, Hot Potato is a messaging and chat app and website where people talk about what they're doing with each other. And you specifically did not build your app as something on top of Twitter. You built your own messaging and chat platform.
So we use Twitter and Facebook aggressively for distribution. They're really great. Say I'm watching Lost, for example, and I might want to tell everybody who follows me that I'm doing that and ask them to join me. Twitter's perfect for that. One of the reasons we got excited about starting Hot Potato was that this was an opportunity to take some of that conversation, not away from Twitter necessarily, but provide a place to actually have a more focused discussion and to interact with people who share an interest in watching Lost, attending a sporting event, at a concert, want to post photos. Make a place for that that's, instead of being aligned around the user explicitly, is aligned more around the event or your activity, in a sense.
But the biggest thing Twitter has done recently is take a space where they once let third-party developers like Tweety thrive, and now they are acquiring them, specifically desktop and mobile clients. Mm-hmm. Do you see them doing that with more areas where developers have kind of filled the niche until now?
I think, yeah, I would hope so for their sake as they're building their business out. I think it's awesome to see Twitter really starting to invest in creating a better user experience on the service. When you've got a variety of mobile apps that all are ways that you could potentially access Twitter, you've got a variety of different user experiences. And TweetTech, for example, serves kind of a business and professional case really nicely. And there are businesses like CoTweet, which sort of add layers on top, kind of a CRM system for Twitter in a sense. And so as a developer, if you're trying to just build an app for accessing Twitter, maybe it's time to start thinking about building real value-added features sort of that sit to the side. And I think for a while, largely because Twitter was really busy trying to scale their service, and I guess they've had some success with that now, they didn't have time to work on user experience as much. But it's really critical, especially for a service like Twitter that gets so much attention in the media, to make sure that when a new user arrives at a Twitter page, they have a great experience. Or when a new user goes and says, oh, I'd like Twitter on my iPhone, or Twitter on my Android, or Twitter on my BlackBerry, that they have a good experience with the product and they're not confused.
So this is a good thing for Twitter in the sense that it's taking more control over the way its users actually use Twitter. But it's fundamentally bad news for developers, right? Because there used to be just this completely free opportunity for everyone to build whatever they wanted on top of Twitter and not really worry that Twitter was going to go after the same thing they were doing. And now, looking forward, it seems that may not always be the case. They'll either acquire you, which I guess is good news if you're that developer, but also maybe compete directly with you in more ways than they used to.
Yeah, and this is the push and pull of sort of any platform in a sense. As a Twitter developer, you got the benefit of being able to use Twitter for login and not have to build that out yourselves, and you got network effects in a big way, and it was a give and take. All of these people pushed Twitter as a platform to use, and as a result, more people started using Twitter. And so Twitter certainly was the benefactor of this, but arguably some of these developers were as well. There wouldn't have been a thing to build Tweety on top of had Twitter not opened up in the way that they did very, very early on. For me at least, and from our perspective, I think most people who have been watching this have been waiting for this to happen, so it didn't come as a huge surprise. There certainly seemed to be some people who were upset at Chirp out in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago. But my guess is this actually creates more opportunities than it destroys. It will just create a different class of them.
So stuff like URL shortening, pictures, sharing, things like that, are those areas where you could see Twitter moving themselves into in the near future?
The one thing they did was they announced this feature called Annotations, which it wasn't clear if they've actually built yet or not, and there's really no spec for it. But annotations, to me, were intellectually interesting, at least. The premise is you could attach data that Twitter would maintain for you when you created a tweet. Not clear how much data. It could be a URL or it could be a photo. They didn't provide a lot of information at Chirp about it. We just kind of talked high level. That certainly could be a vehicle for something like that, though it doesn't look as though they've done anything explicitly in that space.